Hello everyone. Apologies in advance for the sound of my voice. I'm currently dealing with some neck issues and I might actually have to undergo some surgery, but I just wanted to make sure to get some work done before they might take me in. Now last Gamescom, they announced a brand new hero making his way into the Nexus, Kel'Thuzad, and what better reason than to sit down and talk about his story, one that begins as a member of the Kirin Tor.
The Kirin Tor has a legacy of abuse. Kel'Thuzad turned his knowledge of the arcane arts toward necromancy.
He was part of the Council of Six, an impressive, charismatic man, with dark hair and a full beard and strangely glassy eyes, as if he were not really looking at the world around them. Being part of the council, that meant that he possessed connections and power, but he also had a reputation as a dreamer and a researcher, constantly questing for information. When Ner'zhul, the Lich King, was sent down to Azeroth, he worked on conquering the continent of Northrend. Some of the local population, they were subjugated, the Nerubians, they were dominated, and all of them were turned into new troops for his undead army, bent to his will. Left to rule his kingdom unopposed, the Lich King began preparing for his true mission in this world, weaken it and get it ready for another invasion from the Legion. For this, he reached out into the human lands with his vast consciousness, calling out to any dark soul that would listen. One of those unfortunate souls, that was Kel'Thuzad, who under the guidance of the Lich King delved into the much darker arts of his craft, started experimenting with necromancy. Now nothing as major as the Lich King could produce, of course, small experiments hidden away from the eyes of his colleagues, but over time they discovered what he'd been doing and they could not let it go on. They warned him, they tried to guide him, but his curiosity, or perhaps his lust for power, they simply could not be stopped. He tried to be more careful, to make sure that there was no evidence of his forbidden magics to be found within his chambers, but Archmage Antonidas was smart enough to also check his warehouses in the Northlands, where they found all the evidence that they needed. A box with decaying rats was presented to the council, the fruit of his labor, and they had no other choice but to search all of his properties and destroy all items found tainted by dark magic. King Tyrannus had agreed with their judgment, and if Kel'Thuzad did not abandon this madness, he would be stripped of his rank and holdings and exiled from not only Dalaran, but also from all of Lordaeron. His nameless ally had warned him that this might happen, but Kel'Thuzad had not believed. Strange. He felt almost relieved that events had come to pass. The need for secrecy, it limited the scope of his work, it hindered his advancement, and with his mind racing, he bowed down and left. Doubtless, the Kirin Tor were keeping his so-called disgrace quiet, fearing repercussions should his actions become public knowledge. For once, their cowardice would work in his favor, and his wealth would never line the king's coffers. Now with nothing holding him back, the whispers of Ner'zhul led him to his destination, the cold land of Northrend.
I was cast out by my comrades, exiled, forced to wander the frozen wastes. But I was not alone. Not entirely. The voice, now my only companion, guided me to my destination. Strange, nightmarish creatures awaited me at the entrance. I felt my blood run cold as Icecrown itself.
Upon arriving at Naxxramas, Anub'arak was waiting for the Archmage, ready to give him a tour of the facility and show him what the future had in store. They ventured through the wings of the raid that most of you are familiar with, where Kel'Thuzad beheld wonders beyond his wildest dreams. His unknown companion, he'd been able to resurrect beings with speech and motor skills, he could even force the undead to be obedient. There were also magical artifacts, laboratory equipment and other supplies that put his old laboratories to shame. When they reached the part with cauldrons filled with a bubbling greenish liquid, the Archmage nearly touched it, but a massive claw abruptly blocked his way. The Master wishes for him to remain among the living, Anub'arak explained, and this fluid was designed to not only turn people into the undead, but also force them to obey. As a demonstration, the former Nerubian king, he led him to a cage that held two prisoners, two humans, a man and a woman. The female was sick. She begged Kel'Thuzad to show mercy, to burn her body and end her misery, but Kel'Thuzad simply looked away and he whispered to Anub'arak to make her quiet. In response, Anub'arak pierced her heart and he dropped the corpse on the floor, causing the man to howl with anguish, but that was just the start. The female rose as an undead servant. She told her husband to get away from her, that she would hurt him. She pushed him away, causing him to fly against the cell bars and slip down onto the floor. She was unable to control herself as the transformation was completed and she leaped at her husband, lashing out, baring her teeth. The man screamed, and blood spurted onto the cell floor. Kel'Thuzad flinched away. Closing his eyes didn't help. He could still hear unspeakable sounds. Ripping, shredding, chewing. A soft, wretched mewling that he very much feared meant that the undead woman was aware of her actions to some level, but she was unable to stop herself. Sickened and horrified, he teleported out of Naxxramas altogether. He staggered a little distance away and he threw up. Finding a patch of unsullied snow, he scooped up hands full and he scrubbed viciously at his mouth and face. It felt as if he would never be clean again. What had he gotten himself involved in? One by one, his scattered thoughts fell into place. The necromancer was no simple academic, interested in studying a wildly condemned field of magic. Nor did he plan to stop at fortifying his home against attack. He was mass-producing a fluid that converted people into zombies. Naxxramas also had an enormous stockpile of supplies, weapons, armor, training grounds. These weren't defensive measures, these were preparations for war. There was no escape though, as Kel'Thuzad was escorted back in front of Ner'zhul, who explained to him that his powers were beyond comprehension, that he could read Kel'Thuzad's mind as if he was reading a book. No schemes or future plans of overthrowing him would ever be accomplished, and not even death is a certainty when you're dealing with the Lich King. Serving this spectral being would surely bring Kel'Thuzad great power, and also damn him for all eternity. But that knowledge came far too late. Besides, damnation, it had little meaning without the prospect of true death. I am yours, I swear it, he said hoarsely, and Kel'Thuzad pledged his loyalty to the Lich King. He worked on using his connections, his fortune, the power of illusion, persuasion, sickness and force to spread the plague across the lands of Lordaeron and establish the Lich King's hold upon Azeroth. Kel'Thuzad then returned to Lordaeron in disguise, and over the span of several years, he formed a brotherhood of like-minded men and women. This brotherhood, which he called the Cult of the Damned, promised its acolytes social equality and eternal life on Azeroth in exchange for their servants and obedience to Ner'zhul.
My life for Ner'zhul. I wish only to serve.
As the months passed, Kel'Thuzad found many eager volunteers for his new cult amongst the tired, overburdened labors of Lordaeron. It was surprisingly easy to achieve his goal, namely to transfer the citizens' faith from the holy light into believing in Ner'zhul's dark shadow. We can even see a reflection of this in Old Hilsbrand, where he talks about necromancy with Hel'Kilar. He gives him a small demonstration of his power, and he promises him that he can teach him his ways, the ways of the necromancer. Scholomance, once owned by the Baroth family, that also fell into the hands of the Cult of the Damned. As Kel'Thuzad's charismatic influence, it pushed the family to donate it to its cause. The promise of immortality, it was seductive, but the cultists killed the Baroths and turned their ancient crypts into a school of necromancy. As the Cult of the Damned grew in size and influence, Kel'Thuzad made sure to hide it well from the authorities of Lordaeron, and with his success, the Lich King made the final preparations for his assault against human civilization. Placing his plague energies into a number of portable artifacts called plague cauldrons, Ner'zhul ordered Kel'Thuzad to transport these cauldrons to Lordaeron, where they would be hidden within various cult-controlled villages. The cauldrons, protected by loyal cultists, they would then act as plague generators, sending the plague out across the unsuspecting farmlands and cities of northern Lordaeron. The plan worked perfectly. Many of Lordaeron's northern villages, they were contaminated almost immediately. Just as in Northrend, the citizens who contracted the plague, they died and arose as the Lich King's willing slaves. As the plague spread, more and more feral zombies arose in the Northlands. Kel'Thuzad looked upon the Lich King's growing army, and he named it the Scourge, for soon it would march upon the gates of Lordaeron and scour humanity from the face of the world. But of course, humanity didn't just roll over and let it all happen. Reports had come in of a plague spreading through the Northlands, one that Antonidas assumed was magical in nature. Jaina Proudmoore, together with Arthas Menethil, they worked together on figuring out what was going on. They encountered a farmhouse where the living dead assaulted them.
Lock your shields and defend yourselves. Their arrows won't get through.
Skeletons? Slay them all immediately.
These were trained soldiers supporting them, but nothing had ever prepared them for something like this. Despite the horrific sights, they were able to fight them off and discover some clues leading them to Anderhall, where smoke was already rising in the sky. Arthas hoped that if the town had burned, then maybe at least the grain, which was used to spread the plague, that it had been destroyed as well, and it was in Anderhall where they finally caught up with Kel'Thuzad.
Hello again, children. I am Kel'Thuzad, and I've come to deliver a warning. Leave well enough alone. Your curiosity will be the death of you.
Are you responsible for this plague, Necromancer? Is this cult your doing?
Yes, I ordered the Cult of the Damned to distribute the plagued grain.
but the sole credit is not mine.
What do you mean?
I serve the Dreadlord, Mal'Ganis. He commands the scourge that will cleanse this land and establish a paradise of eternal darkness.
And what exactly is this scourge meant to cleanse?
Why, the living, of course. His plan is already in motion. Seek him out at Strathall if you need further proof.
The granary, untouched by the fire racing through the rest of Anderhall, it was already empty. The shipments had already been sent out. Who knows how many people would die because of it? And Arthas was furious, blaming himself. Further north, they searched for Kel'Thuzad again, and this time he didn't teleport away. A bellow of raw fury exploded from Arthas, and he swung, sweeping his brilliantly glowing hammer parallel to the ground, striking Kel'Thuzad at the knees and sending him flying. Others pressed in, swords slicing and hacking, the men venting their grief and outrage on the source, the cause of this entire disaster. For all his power and magic, it seemed as though Kel'Thuzad could indeed die like any other man. Both legs were shattered by Arthas' sweeping blow and lay at odd angles. His robes were wet with blood, shiny black against the matte black, and red trickled from his mouth. He propped himself up on his arms and tried to speak, spitting out blood and teeth. He tried again.
Naive fool. My death will make little difference in the long run. For now, the scourging of this land begins.
His elbows buckled, and, eyes closing, he fell. The body began to rot immediately. Decomposition that should have taken days happened in mere seconds. The flesh paling, bloating, and bursting open. The men gasped and started back, covering their noses and mouths. Some of them turned and vomited from the stench. Arthas stared, horrified and enraptured at the same time, simply unable to look away. Fluids gushed from the corpse, the flesh taking on a creamy consistency and turning black. The unnatural decomposition slowed, and Arthas turned away, gasping for fresh air. Jaina explained that it's believed that if a necromancer is not perfectly precise in their magical workings, that if they're killed, they're subject to what just happened in front of their very eyes. But as we know, this would not be the end of Kel'Thuzad's story. Arthas' journey then led him to Strathholm, where he decided to purge the town and follow the Dreadlord Mal'Ganis all the way to the cold land of Northrend. Just as the Lich King had planned, Frostmourne was waiting for him, a cursed blade that took a piece of his soul, but it did allow him to strike Mal'Ganis down. After wandering Northrend for a while, listening to the whispers of Ner'zhul as well, we find Arthas back in his homeland, now turned into a Death Knight, and he is serving the Lich King. He even murdered his own father and brought the kingdom to ruin, but that was simply another step in their plan. It seems fate is a sense of irony. As the Dreadlord Tychondrius, he orders him to gather some acolytes and recover the remains of their former master, the necromancer Kel'Thuzad. Several paladins, they tried to stand in his way of getting to the tomb, but all of them fell to the might of Frostmourne, and at Anderhall, they claimed their prize.
Come along now, necromancer. The powers that you once served have need of you again.
Told you, my death would mean little.
What the? Am I hearing ghosts now?
It is I, Kel'Thuzad. I was right about you, Prince Arthas.
The necromancer's remains are badly decomposed and will not survive the journey to Quel'Thalas and the powers of the Sunwell, that which they need to bring Kel'Thuzad back. As a container, a very special urn is selected.
Your father ruled this land for 70 years, and you've ground it to dust in a matter of days.
Very dramatic, Uther. Give me the urn, and I'll make sure you die quickly.
The urn holds your father's ashes, Arthas. What? Were you hoping to piss on them one last time before you left his kingdom to rot?
I didn't know what it held. Nor does it matter. I'll take what I came for one way or another.
I dearly hope that there's a special place in hell waiting for you, Arthas.
We may never know, Uther. I intend to live forever.
Excellent work. Now your journey to Quel'Thalas can begin.
Tell him nothing. Only you can hear me. The Dreadlords cannot be trusted. They are the Lich King's jailers.
I will tell you all when I walk this world again.
With the urn in their possession, the next goal was reaching the Sunwell, which required them to conquer the High Elf kingdom of Quel'Thalas. The High Elves put up a fierce fight, trying to defend their gates, but a traitor from within all but assured the Scourge victory. Even Sylvanas Windrunner, Ranger General of Silvermoon, she fell to Frostmourne and was resurrected as a Banshee.
Citizens of Silvermoon, I have given you ample opportunities to surrender, but you have stubbornly refused. Know that today, your entire race and your ancient heritage will end. Death itself has come to claim the high home of the elves. Now arise, Kel'Thuzad, and serve the Lich King once again.
I am reborn as promised. The Lich King has granted me eternal life.
I've upheld my end of the bargain, Lich. Are you ready to tell me about the Dreadlords now?
Certainly, but not here. They have eyes and ears everywhere. We'll talk where it's safe.
And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call it a day, since there's still plenty of story left to tell. As always, thank you so very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, guys, see ya!